Two packages have arrived, naturally from China, and inside we see two boxes under the brand name Bigme. The devices inside are Hybreak phones. This is the name Bigme uses for their line of e-ink smartphones. If the name Bigme rings a bell, that's probably because I talked about them before on this channel. Bigme is a Chinese company that focuses on creating all kinds of gadgets with e-paper displays. They have e-ink tablets, e-ink readers, e-ink computers and computer monitors, and yes, smartphones. Most of their devices run on Android, so you can download and install apps from Play Store, and they have a special flavor of launcher that makes using Android on an e-ink screen less painful. Some time ago, I already showed a Hybreak smartphone with a color e-paper screen, and today we have something new. A regular Hybreak with black and white and not color screen, and a Hybreak Pro, which is yet unreleased, also with a black and white screen. But black and white is not the correct term, since the displays are also capable of displaying shades of gray. So let's start with the standard Hybreak. It is almost exactly the same as the color version I reviewed previously, with the only difference being it has a black and white screen. So it's a 5.84-inch display with a resolution of 720 by 1440, which gives it a PPI of 276. It is powered by a basic MediaTek processor with 4G connectivity, backed up by 6 GB of RAM and 128 GB of internal storage. It supports one SIM card, and you can also extend the storage using a microSD card. Expandable storage is... It also has two cameras, one on the front, one on the back. Don't expect miracles here. These are more for a formality's sake. The operating system is Android 11, which, as I said, comes with a Bigme custom launcher on top of that. The design is somewhat, I would describe, not too shabby. It has a kind of retro charm to it, especially the leather textured back cover. It seems something like a Nokia from the early 2000s, but it definitely does remind you of the devices of the past. As for the controls, the power button is on top of the volume rocker, which is a little bit unusual, but you can find the same arrangement on, for example, Google Pixel phones. It also has an additional button on the other side. In the box, you find a screen protector, which is already applied to the screen, a semi-transparent milky white silicone case, a SIM extractor tool, and that's it. No charger, not even a USB cable. But probably you have one lying around already. So it's essentially the same model as I already reviewed, but with a black and white screen. So I won't be wasting any more time on this one, because I'm more interested in the Hybreak Pro, but I will compare the Pro to the normal version as we proceed. So the Hybreak Pro is actually a completely different phone. It even starts with the packaging. You get the phone with the film screen protector already applied at the factory, a better quality silicone case. This time it's not transparent, and it's off-white or beige in color. The phone itself is white. I think they will release a black version at some point, and also a color version as well. However, currently they only plan to release a black and white version in a white case. And I like this white design much more than the standard version. And with those red elements, such as buttons, it looks kinda nice. The screen is also bigger. It's 6.13 inch, still black and white. The resolution is 824 by 1684, so the measured PPI is 300. It also has a much better processor, also from MTK, Dimensity 1080, which is a 5G chipset. It has 8 gigs of DDR5 RAM, the previous model had DDR4, and also 256 gigabytes of storage. There is a crucial difference. Here, you cannot upgrade the storage, since it's a dual SIM phone, and the same slot is used to house 2 SIM cards instead of a SIM card and a microSD card. So the normal version has 128 gigabytes of storage, roughly 82% of which is available to the user. And the Pro version has 256GB of storage, 87% of which is available to the user. So it definitely has much more storage available. It also has the SIM extractor tool, and unlike the basic version, the Pro version comes with a USB Type-C cable. You still don't get a wall wart though. And compared to the classic black and white version, everything about the Pro version is just better. Connectivity. The basic version has only 4G, the Pro version comes with 5G. Performance. The basic version in both the color and black and white variants only achieve about 127,000 points in AnTuTu benchmark, while the Pro version reaches 523,000. It also has more and faster RAM. It has a better camera. This is a comparison of the same object shot on the classic version and on the Pro version. However, keep in mind the camera here are more for OCR. So the Bigme firmware has a lot of utilities built in. Some of them are AI-based, and there is also an OCR function, which is text recognition. So you just basically take a photo of any document you want to have scanned, and it will convert the image to text. It has a much more modern version of Android. The classic versions run Android 11, and the Pro version runs Android 14, which is more or less recent. With most other Chinese manufacturers, you never receive a software update. On the other hand, all devices I have from Bigme, the big tablet, the small tablet, and the color phone did receive a few software updates along the line. And even these two devices, as soon as I connected them to the internet, they received an over-the-air update. So Bigme is continuously improving the software and adding new features. What I have here in Bigme Pro is a pre-production model, and the software can be considered beta. Everything works, but they will probably polish it in future versions. You also have a fingerprint scanner here. The classic version doesn't have it. You have fast charging, 18 watts. The classic version only can use normal charging. The battery here is 4500 mAh, while the classic version has 3300. It has more buttons. On the right, the power button with the built-in fingerprint scanner is on top, and the volume rocker is in the middle. I am not a big fan of this layout, but as I said, it seems standard on some phones like Google Pixel, and on the other side you have two more buttons. All of them can be programmed for different functions, and also all of them can be used to turn pages in books, since this is still an e-book reader among other things. And having page up and page down buttons on both sides makes it comfortable to use for both left and right-handed people. It also has something interesting on the top, which looks like an infrared port. Unfortunately, the firmware doesn't have any software for it. I tried downloading the ER Blaster app that came in the Play Store search results, however it failed to detect the hardware. Perhaps in some future software update, Bigme will rectify this issue. Speaking of Google Play, this phone passes all Google security checks, while the classic model only passes the basic security check. It's not that important on the basic model, however the Pro model also has NFC, and it is very important for it to pass security checks in Google so you can use it to actually pay for something. And also, which is very important to me, it's dual SIM. That was my biggest con with the classic version, since I really need two SIM cards in a single device. By the way, when you insert the SIM cards, be careful. The tray actually has a locker system for the SIM cards, so they kinda snap in. Make sure you snap the SIM cards into the SIM card tray securely before inserting it, otherwise the SIM cards may not align with the contacts inside the phone, and they may also get stuck. So make sure you snap in the SIM cards correctly into the slot before inserting it. None of the phones support those special drawing styluses that come with tablets from Bigme, so you cannot draw on these phones with the pen. You can still use a normal capacitive stylus though. The Pro model also has different settings for backlight, or the correct term is front light, since e-ink screens do not use backlight, they use the front light. And that explains why all of these phones and all e-readers in general have huge bezels. That's where the front light is hidden, and there is no other way to do that. So each e-ink screen will have large bezels compared to your normal phone or tablet, for example. In the Pro model, you can select between cool and warm white color for the front light. The basic version only has the cool light option. The front light even bleeds a little bit around the speaker, and I find it a little bit amusing. As for the screens, the refresh rate is not great. This is not a problem with Bigme, it's a problem with the current state of e-ink technology. So don't expect watching videos on the e-ink screen. Well, you can do it, and you can download all the apps you want from Play Store, be it YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or whatever. However, watching videos is not the best experience. It's more like a slideshow with a voiceover. So you can do it, but don't expect for the experience to be pleasant. And another problem with all e-ink screens is the image retention. That means that more often than not, you will see the old image, which is already not on the screen, sticking through the new image. And to get rid of the previous image, you need to fully refresh the screen. That black and white flashing cycle. Again, this is a limitation of the e-ink technology, not Bigme. However, Bigme tries to address it, and they have a few profiles in the settings tailoring the screen to different users, being it reading comics, or whatever. That helps, but not so much. So e-ink screens are not really for dynamically moving images, and you shouldn't really be using them for that. However, when you do use e-ink screens for something they are supposed to be used for, they do a brilliant job. The first thing that comes to mind is reading. It's much more comfortable reading text on an e-ink screen compared to your normal screen, since you don't have that glare and your eyes are less tired. Also, e-ink screens literally shine in bright sunlight, while you can barely see anything on other types of screens. So here, for example, I'm comparing the black and white version and the color version of the classic Hybreak Pro, with an iPhone, which uses OLED screen, with an Android phone, which uses AMOLED screen, and with another Android phone, which uses one of the best IPS panels out there. So I'm displaying the same image on all of them, and you can barely see anything on your normal phone. However, on the e-ink phone, the image is clearly visible, and actually a black and white e-ink screen is sharper than a color e-ink screen. So to conclude, e-ink phones are a niche device, and for most users, they can only be a secondary phone. You still need a normal phone with a normal screen like AMOLED, OLED, or IPS. So you will use your normal phone for watching videos, scrolling through social media photos, and so on. However, when you need to read lots of text, that may be a book, a newspaper, emails, or even chats and messengers, this is where you should actually be using e-ink, since it's really comfortable to read on an e-ink screen. Especially for me, since most of my day I'm reading emails, Word documents, Excel workbooks, and that kind of stuff, and I also compose a lot of documents. And once I switched to e-ink screens, my eyes almost immediately thanked me. So I have much less eye strain, much less fatigue, and I feel less tired by the end of the day. So yeah, if you are looking into something like that, Bigme is basically the only company that still makes e-ink screen phones. So this is basically your only option if you want a smartphone with an e-ink. And model-wise, I really recommend the Pro. Yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but instead of something mediocre, you get a modern phone. It has lots of performance, lots of storage, lots of RAM, 5G connectivity, NFC, GPS, well, the standard one also has GPS, fingerprint scanner, fast charging, and the modern version of Android. So if money is not that of a concern, you are really better off with getting a Hybreak Pro. So if you are interested in purchasing one of the Hybreak models, you will find a purchase link in the description.
I am the god of YouTube.
Like, subscribe, jingle bells.